Hello, WorldCiv107. Welcome to week 14. And, we covered a lot of information. First of all, I think we all know and recognize that. And we covered a lot of controversial information. This week is especially so. And I wanted to just kind of add some clarifications on my approach to this topic and what I'm hoping you will all get out of it. Much of what I was trying to say is in the lectures themselves, but still, it may seem to some of you that there is still a bias on my part because if you look at the fact that I even addressed the Lavon affair, which is very controversial, it's not debatable that it happened, but it's a very controversial one from reflecting on the position of Israel, and I think ultimately there would be some folks looking at where I'm going with it to be biased, even though I tried to put a lot of nuance into it. Here's what I want you to take away from this, though. What I want you to realize. I am a person that, yes, I do have an opinion on this conflict, but I do have friendships over the years that I've developed from people who are invested on both sides. And I really want to make it clear that I think that in a world which tries to racialize conflict and to bring racism into conflict, to bring extreme nationalist views that are very jingoistic or just hateful towards a particular group of people, that is not the approach. What I want you all to realize is that when we see that human beings have a conflict of interest and that gets ugly, that to realize that that's something that all human beings do in the world, no matter where you are. In Africa, there's conflicts often, not just between religious groups, but sometimes pastoral people and nomads. There's a limited water source. This has happened with the indigenous people everywhere in the world. This is what nations do, fighting over resources, oil. And so the conflicts are real, and it's not that there's not a moral position that one can take on viewing the way that the conflict is. But, again, I have followed this conflict for many years, and you will see a lot of racism that ends up showing up on a critique of Israel or a critique of the Palestinians. And or very distorted views about the religion or the religions within the conflict. So I just want you to keep that in mind. That's something that I'm 100% against. And I also do tilt more information on favor of the Palestinian perspective for this reason. It is a fact that if you look at our mainstream media here, you won't get a lot of very positive views about Palestinian perspectives. The Democrats and the Republican Party both tend to be very, very pro-Israel, and you see that even within discussions and debates. That's not how it works everywhere else in the world. In other parts of the world, not just as Israel viewed in a very negative way, but you still get a lot of anti-Semitism as well. So I suppose that depending on what country I would be in, if I saw that there were certain tendencies to go too far one way or the other, I'd want to address all of those things. And in the case of what we have here, we do have two trends that have happened in the United States that I've seen, which is Islamophobia, phobia of Arabs, also not realizing that many of the Palestinians are Christian and many Arabs are Christian, so not all Arabs are Muslim, but also, especially in recent times, a real spike in anti-Semitism. that's, you know, to be anti-Jewish and look into Jewish conspiracy theories. So, interestingly enough, if the word interesting is appropriate, while Jews and Muslims and Arab Christians are having a conflict in that part of the world, they're both facing a lot of kind of resurgence in racism or community violence within the Western world and in the United States. And there's a lot of things to reflect on. This context spills over into many different thoughts about a wide range of topics. And so I just kind of want you to be aware of that, and I'm hoping that I'm portraying, you know, what I'm trying to tell you in a very still like a nuanced way, despite whatever bias you might see coming through in my presentation. And if some of you are uncomfortable with any of that and you've read something that you want to talk about with me, feel free to do that, and this being a safe space for you to be able to do that. I'm more than happy to at least give a discussion or an analysis of some other viewpoint or content that you might have come across or have yourself, okay? And so, in any case, I do think, though, that regardless of where you stand on this, that this is a very informative set of lectures that I present and videos that are still going to help you be much more polished in understanding this history, because there's certainly very, very poor understanding of this history. And it's amazing to me how many people have very passionate views about it and know very little about it as well. And that, to me, is that's deplorable. You can't be that invested in a conflict and spend so little time actually studying it, okay? And studying the Bible or Islam or like your religion to understand this conflict is not going to work. So I'm just going to tell you that right away. I'm not devaluing your belief in those religions. I'm saying that that's not going to get you anywhere if you really want to understand this. So work with the history, okay? That's what's going to help that out. Now, next week, our last week, we're going to cover many aspects of the modern Middle East and things that will really help you understand even a broader set of topics, which are also still very controversial, which I'll go over. And so many events have changed and happened. Every time I teach this class, I'm trying to make sure I even have this updated enough. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge I'll look over for next week. But right now, don't forget, you got basically 2 weeks left to catch up on late work. You should really be getting most of it by this week to me, okay? So that I have time to grade everything for the finals. So please start getting those in. And I shouldn't have to say this, but for all my classes, for whatever reason, I'm still getting papers with no dates for the time periods covered or the work cited. Everyone, I think, you know, if you've listened to any of my announcements, I've made this clear like so many times. You get zeros if you don't have dates for time periods and works cited. So make sure that those are there, okay? Please. And I hope you are all taking good care of yourself and doing all right in this very, very tricky time still. So again, I'm available. Contact me if you need anything.